Sugar. We all know and love sugar. It's literally the thing that makes everything taste much better, makes our hearts warm, we feel all savory about it. It's in creamy, warm, savory foods that we all love. Sugar is literally a staple to the world economy and has been for thousands of years. I mean, who doesn't love sugar? Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Kartik, and today I'm gonna dive into exactly why I quit sugar and what changes it's had on my body. As we all know, sugar is not good for us. It causes diabetes type 2, obesity linked to certain cancers, and so many other problems. And in studies, it's averaged that Americans have 71 grams of added sugar on average. That's equal to about 4 Hershey's bars a day. Keep in mind, this is the average amount of added sugar, and half the population is having way more sugar than this. And this is added sugar, not the stuff in fruits and breads. This is the sugar that they add on top of that to make everything taste better. The industry is currently at a massive $38 billion and is projected to grow to an astronomical $47 billion in the next decade. And all the planting of sugar canes is causing deforestation, greenhouse gases for production, wasting of water and wasting of pesticides. There's just so much damage happening with all this sugar consumption that we're doing. And these changes are all so bad, and yet we all continue to use it and have it on a daily basis. So what actually happens when you quit sugar? Well, I'll share my personal story and how I got started on this. I remember I used to have soda so often. I used to have Barq's vanilla root beer, sun-kissed orange sodas. It was a great way for me to relax and just taste something good. And I used to think I was healthy in the mornings. I'd be having some Yoplait yogurt and some cereals for breakfast. And then I'd also have Gatorade in my afternoons right before my karate sessions and right after the session as well. And then I ended my day with a daily Haagen-Dazs ice cream bar. You know, the ice cream, the vanilla ice cream with the milk chocolate and almonds on the outside. Delicious.
Nice.
It's literally some of the best food I've ever had. And I had that on a daily basis. And these foods basically were my routine staple diet. And man, I used to eat those all the time, and I just felt great eating them, splurging on them. But right after, I'd feel super lazy, feel kind of groggy, just didn't feel great. And I gained over 30 pounds in just a few months of doing this. And it wasn't good weight either. It was more flabby fat that I had gained. So I made a hard decision to make the hard quit on added sugars and make sure that they went next to zero. And boy, can I tell you, it was a journey. So first off, I had to change up my core meals. I had to figure out, what am I gonna eat? How am I gonna change everything? I gotta look at the ingredients. What has a bunch of added sugars? Like, there's a lot of salads with a bunch of added sugars. So I had to figure out, what am I gonna eat? And I keep refining the meals, and it took me a long time, because being honest, in today's world, it's really hard to find food that has no added sugars in it. It seems like almost everything has added sugars unless you make something from scratch. So for the most part, I started having more home foods, and if I was gonna have more pre-made foods, I would go in the grocery store, pick some hand-selected foods that are just straight plain ingredients making up the food. For example, if I have some frozen fish or some salmon, I gotta make sure, you know, it's plain, it has just garlic and butter on it, nothing else added on it. That's gonna be the one. And stuff like that. That's what I had to do to make sure that I had no added sugars in my meals. So for my breakfast, I started changing it up. I wanted to have milkshakes, so I put in real milk, real fruits, natural protein powder with organic vanilla added to it, so no sugars to it at all. And I added it in, made it sweet and tasted amazing. And then for my other meals, I got some unmarinated meats, some frozen straight vegetables, nothing else in them, and then some grains, either some whole grain bread or maybe some pasta without any added sugar. And that's how I would make my meals. And I know it's a journey, and it took me a long time to refine my meals and to figure out, what am I gonna eat? Because when you're starting out quitting sugar, you're gonna be like, everything I have has added sugar. I want you to look at the labels. So doing it step by step, maybe changing up the breakfast first. Breakfast was the biggest thing for me that I changed at first, and then slowly figuring out lunches, dinners, how am I gonna make that? Who's gonna make that? Where am I gonna get it from? It's all a challenge, but it's all part of the journey. And the easiest change I made was my desserts. So instead of the Haagen-Dazs, which I loved, I still think it's one of the best desserts you can have, I started having Oikio's yogurts, or yogurts like that, which have no added sugar to them, but are still sweet tasting and pretty healthy for you. So I started having stuff like that, which was more fulfilling with the added proteins, gonna be fill off of that, a little sweet flavor, tastes amazing. It's a good dessert. And don't get me wrong, this wasn't just a fix I made overnight in one day. This took me months and months and months, sometimes even years, to find the perfect food to replace that sugary meal that I was having before. And I cut out all my sodas, my juices, all that sugary stuff, and started just having water for the most part. And then my milkshakes in the morning, which were pretty sweet, naturally sweetened, tasted amazing. And I started getting used to drinking water without any flavoring. It wasn't the best at first, I'll be honest. It tastes kind of plain, but after a little bit of doing it, and if you add ice to it too, it actually helps. Ice water tastes better to the sugary mouth than does warm water. I don't know why, the science behind it, but just ice water goes out better. But after doing that for a while, I got used to it. I started being like, okay, this tastes good. I'm craving plain water. Like, that's a first for me, nothing sugary like Gatorade or something. So that was a good change that I made. Side note, if you're doing this and you're craving soda, you should try out Olipop. It's pretty healthy for you. It only has like 5 grams of added sugar, way better than the 50 grams of like Coke or something. And it's still gonna be good for you in terms of what the ingredients are. It has probiotics. Sure, the added sugar isn't good, but like way better than those other sodas. It's gonna be a better buy, and your body will thank you, and you can enjoy it and splurge on it every once in a while. I think it's a good buy. But anyways, back to the main point. So I started doing all these diets, bland and boring, typical. But what changes did I actually have? Well, immediately my skin started looking so much clearer. Acne started going away. I just seemed more brilliant in the face and like everywhere. Rashes were less. I don't know. Acne was just acne was gone. Like, there was a big difference in acne before cutting out all sugars and after. Like, you notice a big difference. And the more I kept going with this diet, I started noticing more stable energy levels. I noticed that, I wasn't like plateauing, going up or down. Like, when you have a super sugary meal, you get really hyped up, but then you also have a big crash. So if you cut out all that added sugar, your energy levels are going to be pretty stable. You're going to be going throughout the day pretty normal rate without any crash or burns. But I'll be honest, you don't have any spikes either. You're just normal throughout. But to be honest, I prefer that normalness throughout, because by the afternoon time when I normally did my workouts, normally I'd be super drained, super tired, and be like, I don't want to do this, I can't push. But now I just felt like I could do this. Like, it doesn't feel any different. Like, I felt great even after the workout too. Sure, I was a little tired from the workout, but still had some mental energy and still able to do my things. And I was just starting to feel amazing. Like, it was feeling normal, but feeling normal felt amazing. Because when you're eating a bunch of sugar all the time, you're gonna be feeling down a lot of times and you wanna crave more sugar. This leads to like an addiction type of cycle. But when you're totally off it, you're just stable. It's like just pure energy. It's great, I love it. And on top of this, I started seeing a lot of fat melt off of me. All that chubbiness that I had gained from eating the Haagen-Dazs every night, all that stuff, it started going away pretty fast. Sure, I was working out, but the workouts were pretty much the same as what I was doing before. So that sugar loss really cuts down the fat, because the body's like, I don't need to store any of this excess sugar anymore. It's fat, we can start burning it all away. We don't need this. It's amazing. I'm telling you, like 3 months off of added sugars can make a world of a difference to how you look. So I kept up with this diet even longer, because no acne, more stable energy, just feeling overall better and less.
One eternity later.
So with all these added benefits of no acne, more stable energy, and then losing fat, I just felt like this is amazing. Why don't I keep going? And so I kept going for a longer period of time. And I noticed I was becoming more of a happier person, more of a positive, outlooking person, not really down in the dumps, worried about stuff, negatively criticizing anyone, stuff like that. And I was like, wow. And I just became less emotional, less erratic, just more of a normal, which I loved. I just felt like I was in control of my life the way I am, and not ups and downs, feeling amazing at some points, feeling terrible at some points. Just feeling a steady state of constant, which I loved. And all these added benefits just kept getting better and better. And I was like, why don't I just keep doing this? And I have. Even to this day, it's been many years now, and I'm continuing to not have added sugars. Now, I'll be honest, added sugars are in a lot of things. So yeah, I have added sugars in a few meals. I don't have 0 added sugars. I try to keep them to a minimum. If I'm having a meal that has an option of something, bunch of sugar versus something doesn't have added sugars, I'll go with the doesn't have added sugars. But if I'm out at a restaurant, or maybe I'm celebrating with a dessert, after like a big test or something, then I'll have the added sugars because it's like, why not? You know, it's a once in a while thing, tastes amazing. And so yeah, that's how I go about it now. But the most surprising thing I've noticed since being off of all those added sugars and having them maybe every like once every couple of weeks, once every 3-4 weeks, I've noticed I don't even like these sugary foods anymore. Like when I have the foods that I used to love before I cut out added sugars, I just felt kind of gross. Like all that added sugar just didn't fit right in my tongue. It was like tingling in the wrong way. I was like, this doesn't taste as good as I used to think it did. And I was like, I'd rather have like some yogurt, some fruit, mix it up and have that instead of maybe like the sweet savory candies I used to love. Like Sour Patch Kids still taste amazing, but like it's not that level of amazing it used to be. And then you just feel groggy and bad after. It's like, why did I even do that? So that's something cool and interesting I've learned. I feel like because there's so much added sugars in everything, our bodies become accustomed to that taste. But once we get off of that, all these bland foods start tasting much better to us because naturally we're supposed to have those foods without the added sugars. So our bodies just start craving those natural foods again. It's a surprising change I've noticed. All these changes and life benefits are absolutely mind-blowing once you actually go through them. Like it feels like you're kind of a different person. You feel like you're in a different state of life. And then you start realizing how all these science articles are like sugar's bad for you, sugar causes all these problems, blah, 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 blah. You start actually seeing those in your own life, in your own body, because you're like, wait, if I'm feeling low energy all the time, this is gonna lead to like depressive moods, which leads to a lot of other problems. Excess fat gain from the sugar leads to, you know, obesity, diabetes type 2, and then dysregulation of our hormones, our body functions, cell functions, leads to cancer. So it starts like leading, and it starts making sense. Like all these steps lead to those progression of problems that everyone says sugar causes. And you don't really realize it until you get off of those added sugars that you start seeing these changes. And I'm not here saying we need to cut added sugars to a bare minimum 0. No added sugars at all. No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying we need to cut back on those added sugars. I mean, as Americans, we have like the highest rate of consumption of added sugars. At 71 grams a day for the average person. That's insane. So cutting back on those by a lot can make a huge difference. It doesn't have to be 0, but if you cut it even by half, it makes a huge, huge difference in your life. Let me know if you guys have tried out cutting out sugar in your life and diet and what changes you've seen. And if you guys are trying to do this, well, let this video be a motivator for you to go out there, cut out your added sugars, and just try it out, even if it's for a month, and see the differences, see the challenges, see the journey you go through, and who knows, it may be the one life-changing thing you've been looking for. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay healthy and stay happy.